Check it out, we rapping for the Texans. Put it in, Crenshaw Bridge, we flexing. Houston rap style, we bringing the heat. Talking Texas football, nothing compete. Got the best podcast, the loudest in the game. Wednesday nights, 8 p.m. Remember the name, we talking draft picks. We talking defense, we break it all down. No nonsense. H-Town with the Run Showdown. On the mic, talking Texas football. Every Wednesday night, with special guests dropping knowledge. Taking the stage, diggity Crenshaw Briggs. We holding it down in the H-Town, wiping it down. Talking touchdowns in H-Town. Houston culture, we holding it down. Talking news and rumors, keeping it real. No filter, we got the Texans appeal. A Lone Star City, we're living it up. Talking all things Texas, we can't get enough. From the football field to the concrete jungle, we're ripping H-Town. Ain't nothing humble, bitch.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Texans Fan Battle Podcast, brought to you by Fan Battle Sports Network. Of course, I'm your host tonight, Matthew Briggs. We got a special guest, but before I introduce him, I want to introduce my brother from another mother. I just learned his last name tonight. I got Mr. Kenneth Davis. How you doing, sir?
I'm muted. What's up, Texans fans? I'm all good, man. How you doing, Matt?
You're doing well. And guys, we have a legend in the building, a fan favorite, and also a Texans fan battle favorite. We love having him on. We got Hall of Fame writer, I can't call him Mr. I got John McClain on the show. How you doing, John?
Matthew, I'm doing great, Kenneth. It's nice to meet you. I've been on with Matthew several times, and the lead in to your podcast got me excited. I'm already excited, but that was a tremendous lead in, and I don't know how you can get extra pumped up because of that. I'll tell you something, guys. I've been coming to Houston since 1962 when the Astros were born, and I was 10 or 9 years old. I've been living here since 1976, and I cannot remember a time when we had more teams creating more excitement at the same time than we do right now. University of Houston in the Sweet 16, fifth year in a row, legitimate contender for the national championship under Kelvin Sampson. The Rockets have won 9 in a row. They've already won 14 more games than last season. And Ime Udoka has done a fabulous job with that team. Astros starting against the Yankees, 4 games, 4 days. I'll be there on Saturday. You couldn't start with a better team unless it was the Rangers, and you knew you were going to kick their ass. But it's great for them. And then the NFL meetings where they make rules changes and everybody gets a lot of publicity. It's very relaxed time at those meetings. It's the first one I haven't been to, I think, in about 40 years. And but now everybody's focused on the draft. So the Texans, people are so pumped about them. So that's 4 teams in Houston that everybody's talking about. And it's a great time if you're a sports fan.
Yes, sir. It's the first time in a long time that we, not one sports team is disappointing us. And also, we got Mr. Crenshaw joining the building. How you doing, Crenshaw?
What's up? How y'all doing out there? What's up, Mr. McClain?
How are you?
What's up, Keno?
What's up, man? Not much.
Hey, Crenshaw, you got to be careful now. We can't call John Mr. John McClain no more. He's been on the show so many times. It's John, so he's part of the family now. So, John, I'm glad you brought up the NFL meetings. We got some new rules. No more. Well, I guess you can hip tackle, but it'll just be a 15-yard penalty, correct?
Yeah, that hip drop. I've never even heard that term used up in the last year. Just like in baseball, they call it a sweeper. I looked it up. What the hell is a sweeper? It's a slider. They don't ever say hitting anymore. They call it bat to ball. And so I don't know what's going on. Maybe I'm an old fogey. I know I am. But to me, can't you just say hitting? Can't you just say hip tackle instead of a hip drop tackle? I feel bad for the defensive players because every rule change that is made is to boost the offense. And all this new kickoff return rules to boost scoring, boost field position. The defense, they might as well paint targets on a uniform of an offensive player or a returner showing where you can hit them because it seems to be reduced every year. And so there's going to be a lot of penalties on the hip drop tackle. It's hard enough. Think about this. A guy's running full speed. Say it's a running back. He's 5'11" and 215, and he's physical and he's shifty and he can accelerate and he can cut on a dime. And you're supposed to tackle him a certain way. It's one thing you hit him in the head area. They can drop their helmet and boom, your penalty's on you. So I feel bad for the officials, but I think this kickoff return rule, what the XFL used, but this new UFL is not using, that it's going to take some getting used to. You kick off in the end zone, boom, it's a penalty. You could bring it out to I think it's the 40, might be the 30. You have to hit a landing zone up to the goal line, and nobody can move except the kicker and the two return guys. And the lineman is so weird. When you are the kicking team, you will line up on the receiving team's 40-yard line. And then they're on their 35. And then those guys can't move until the kickoff returner, one of them, catches the ball. And it's designed to prevent as many collisions as there used to be, but put the return back in it. And they think now with two returners back, you'll see cross the field passes. You'll see reverses, fake reverses. And the way the guys are so deep in your territory on returns, if you get through that initial wave, you got a chance to score a touchdown. And so I think they did it on a 1-year trial basis. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if they don't do something to it next year, because it looks like they've gone from one extreme in which it's the most boring play in football to another extreme, which could change the face of offense.
Okay. Now, Crenshaw, I jump to you. Which rule modification or change caught your eye?
Well, yeah, the kickoff rule. Now, the only thing I don't understand is, so as far as the onside kick, you got to let them know. How does that work?
Well, yeah, because we all know when there's going to be an onside kick anyway. Now, every once in a while, you'll find a Jimmy Johnson or a Sean Payton or a Bill Cowher that will pull a surprise onside kick to start a game or in the Super Bowl. But by and large, 99% of them, we know they're coming because time left in the game and what's at stake. So I don't think that's going to be a big deal.
Okay, yeah, and then on the hip tackle, that's penalties all day on that right there, because I don't know what a hip tackle is myself, because it looks like a good tackle, but it might be a hip tackle. But I give it about week 5, week 6, it's going to be a big deal on TV.
Well, the bottom line is, despite all these changes, still a great game, great players, just like college football. Nobody likes what's going on with the Pac-12 going down the toilet with the transfer portal. And yet when they get on the field, we still have great players playing a great game that are exciting. And but everything that's going on the periphery that affects the games on the field, we don't like it. But the bottom line is the great games are still great.
Yes, sir. Kenneth, what about you? Got any thoughts on it?
I think honestly it makes it even more harder for the defensive players, and I really feel bad for them because it's like they really got to be careful how they tackle, and it's already hard enough. They they got to be careful how they go in and not going in with their head first. In which I understand that part. We got to be safe. You know what I'm saying? Don't need no concussions and nothing like that. But as far as the hip tackle, it's like, man, how you expect people to bring down people like Derrick Henry and these big tight ends that's very physical and explosive? It's like it's gonna be kind of tough. But honestly, looking forward to it and see how this play out and see how it goes.
Yeah, I think it was RG3. It was somebody that used to play in the NFL, and he pretty much saying, well, they got to tackle that way now because they already took away hitting them high and hitting them low. So the only way to tackle them is the hip tackle. So I agree with them. But what do you want them to do? You want to put a little yellow flag on their waist and pull it now? Or, I mean, is that what we're coming to? I mean, I get it. You want to stop injuries, but football is a contact sport. Injuries are going to happen. People are going to get hurt. Sometimes it's going to be the big name players like the tight end for the Ravens,
Mark Andrews got hurt
Mark
with that
Andrews.
drop tackle last
Yes,
season.
sir. Yes, Mark Andrews. Is this going to happen? And Tony Pollard was hurt too, wasn't he? A few years back with it.
2 years ago, and another
yeah.
thing like last year, everybody's talking about torn Achilles, need to get rid of artificial surface, go to grass. Well, you know what? In that first game, the Texans lost to Baltimore. J.K. Dobbins went down with an Achilles on a grass field. And so people just seem to panic. And I was with former NFL players today at lunch. We were talking about these rules changes. One of them was Richmond Webb, 7-time Pro Bowl offensive tackle for the Dolphins. And all these former players were talking about how much they don't like these rules. And they think there's no more injuries today than there were when they played, where you could hit guys in a helmet coming across the middle with a padded forearm. You could do anything to quarterbacks. You could high low a nose tackle with blocks on his knees and at his chest. There were really very few rules, but it doesn't seem like they had a lot more injuries than they do today.
Yeah, I see that point. That's to me. I just don't understand. Maybe because uh, offense sells, and that's what they
That's
want.
exactly it. Offense sells. Chick Slick,
Yeah,
dig the long ball.
there you go. One thing too, I want to get your opinion on for everybody. What do you think about moving the trade deadline week 8 to week 9? It doesn't
I
matter,
thought
or
that
does
was
that?
great. It's great because some teams, you gives them a better chance of knowing, okay, they've lost one more game. They might as well sell instead of be buyers. And I think it's good for the game. Somebody was promoting 2 weeks. It wouldn't bother me at all. Forever, it was the first Tuesday of October. Wouldn't bother me with the season being longer and extending into January if they didn't go to November 1st.
I wouldn't mind that either. I mean, it gives Nick Casario more time to cook, so I'm okay with it. Kenneth, what's your thoughts on it?
I like it. Honestly, I like it. Like John said, it gives an extra week. You know what I'm saying? And like you just said, give Nick time to cook. You know what I'm saying? More time to cook. And another thing is like we could think about as far as if an injury was to happen that week before or during that week
Mm,
that it used to be. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Then you can, make a move. You know what I'm saying? You can think of like that way as well. So I actually like it.
Crenshaw, we know you've been a Nick kind of not. I wouldn't say hater, but doubter in the past. I know he's caught your attention now. Well, what do you think about this extra week?
Well, what I learned with Nick is you got to be patient. You be patient, he gonna make things happen. So as of right now, I'm liking everything Nick is doing. Um, Pushing the trade deadline back a week, hey, I'm okay with that. That's fine because the usually NFL trade deadline ain't gonna be a lot of movement anyway. Sometimes you have a big name, sometimes you have a big name. So everything so far during the owners meeting, I'm okay with everything. We got to see how everything plays out.
Okay, all right. Well, Mr. McClain, am I missing anything else from the owners' meeting?
Not that I give a damn about.
I was about to say same. Same thing. I there is pretty Texan wise. Cal McNair is now the I would say head
Well, that
operations.
was inevitable. Everybody knew
Yeah,
that was coming. Cal's
yeah,
been running that franchise since 2017. People never say that because most of them don't take the time to know what's going on. His dad was fighting cancer really bad, and so Bob had was undergoing serious treatment, and so Cal took it over in 2017. They had that rough spot when they had 22 players on injured reserve, including rookie quarterback Deshaun Watson, and they bounced back the next year and had a good season. So his mother was the controlling owner, and she had final say, and she'd done whatever he wants to do because she's had health issues. She had a stroke 2 years ago. She's fine mentally, and I'm so glad that her oldest son Kerry, who was putting her in an early grave, trying to get control of her, trying to say she was mentally incapacitated so he could get her voting rights when she designated Cal. So everything is really good over there now. And considering how bad it was for a while with O'Brien and Jack Easterby, and did you guys see Jack Easterby
at the
hugging all the
A&M.
baggies on the court? He and
Yeah,
Buzz Williams, the A&M coach, are best friends. And Buzz Williams told me, "Oh, he's just visiting." And the players, "Oh, Coach Jack's been doing." Williams just lied like crazy. He's been there leading chapel and everything. So, um, anyway,
They can keep them over there. They
yeah,
can have them.
absolutely. Things are going so well over at NRG Stadium now with all the controversy behind them being good. You know, the only thing they got to worry about now is they're playing a first place schedule, not a last place schedule. They have 11 games against teams with winning records, 5 division champions, and then they got to play against Josh. Let's see, Josh. Who all they play? Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Aaron Rodgers, Lamar Jackson, Tua Tagovailoa, Jared Goff, Jordan Love, Caleb Williams, Trevor Lawrence, and I may be leaving out
Dak.
a couple. Whoever, Minnesota, maybe J.J. McCarthy. So that's why they've been loading up in free agency on defense. And that's why I think 2 of the first 3 picks in the draft will also be defensive players because they know what they're up against. And but people are so fired up to come to work over there every single day. And they're fired up about the uniform unveil on the 23rd, too.
Yeah, I was about to ask, talk to you about that. You kind of gave a story to me before we came on live, on set. So we kind of tell us the same story, the revealing, if you would.
They invited members of the media. They couldn't do it over at Energy Stadium because rodeo was going on. So they rented a place downtown at where the old post office building, and they had a room. We had the media. We had to sign a confidentiality agreement, and then when we got there, we had to take out our cell phones, put them in a plastic bag, and then we went in. We saw they had the 4 current uniforms on these big dummies, and then they had the 4 new uniforms on dummies, and then they brought guys out, models who look like players, and they were modeling the new uniforms. We got to see them up close and personal. And I kind of wandered around. I want to see them from the front and the back. I want to see every stripe, every dot, every stitching, everything. And now, 2 weeks later, whatever it's ever been, I can't remember anything I saw. I don't even remember what the current uniforms look like, other than when they wear the ketchup bottles. My favorite colors have always been the all blue with red trim. And I love those uniforms. I hated the ketchup bottles because I always felt bad for the offensive linemen to have to wear those uniforms. Now, the thing I loved the most was those red helmets that they unveiled, 2 years ago? I still don't understand why they can't make those their permanent helmet. And they have a lot. Teams have a lot of restrictions when they change uniforms. It's a multi-year process, and the league controls everything. And some of those uniforms we see are god awful. The old Rams were great, the Chargers were great, the Broncos were great, and I love the Texans. And as I told Matthew, it's deep steel blue, red, Liberty white, and deep steel blue, battle red. And the Liberty white was because Bob McNair's Cocker Spaniel was white, and his name was Liberty. And that's how he came up with the name of the color. And I've always loved the bulls, the horns, and I've loved the helmets. I've always loved the colors. As a member of the media, I can't wear any of that, but if I was a fan, I would. And the new ones, I've been telling people they're spectacular and they're going to like them, but it's like anything else. Sometimes some people will like it, some people won't. And a lot of people are just averse to change. I remember when the Tennessee Oilers were wearing Columbia blue their first 2 years playing in Tennessee. Then when they started in 1999 and they got their new facility and their new stadium, and they changed everything. And nobody cared about the Columbia blue then. Nobody cared about the Columbia blue when they left there. Now everybody cares about Columbia blue. But when you change uniforms radically, I think that's not what sells the best. To me, they should be gradual. And I can't tell y'all what the Texans are, but I think that probably out of 3 of you guys, 2 of them will like it and 1 of them won't.
Yeah, we already have one. I know Crenshaw's not a big fan of them. So there's always that one person. But like you said earlier, it doesn't matter what's on the field; it's what's in it.
Who's wearing them and what they're doing on the field. Don't
It's
you
a
guys
product.
know the uniforms last year looked great? And the three previous years, they look terrible.
Absolutely. Winning fixes everything.
Absolutely.
I've learned that pretty hard. So, Chris, what do you think about the jerseys real quick?
Well, just like you said, I was gonna say the same thing. As long as they start winning, I don't care what the uniforms look like.
That's a great attitude.
But my favorite uniforms is always the color rush. Even though they only worn it a couple of times, but I wish they had the color rush with the all red helmets. I think that'd be a badass uniform right there. But I can't wait, a couple more weeks to see, the unveiling
April
of it.
23rd.
Can't wait, man. April 23rd. So that's Monday?
I don't know. All I know is it's April. The draft. No, that would be a Tuesday. Draft's on Thursday, the 25th. So the big unveil will be on Tuesday.
Okay. Well, I can't wait. I know everyone's, like you said, going to say, I hate it. I love it. I hate it. So it's going to be a beautiful thing, man, because we've been needing new uniforms for a long time. And I'm glad it's finally here.
Yeah, I mean, we're the youngest franchise, right? So now we're starting to build some history. So it's great. Other than, that dark history we had with number 4 last couple of years. So
Speaking of history, excuse me about what I'm about to do. Carol, can you hear me? Can you go in my room and look on the chest and bring me what Paul gave me this past weekend? Please. I got something to show you guys. Do what? She can't right now because our cat's in her lap. I apologize. But before we go, I'm going to show you guys something that was given to me this weekend. We went to Las Vegas for the first 2 rounds of the tournament, stayed at Caesars. We've done that 2 years in a row. It is so exciting. And a friend of mine from Hawaii who used to work there, was a big Oilers fan, brought me something. I'm going to show you. You guys tell me what you think about it. Anyway, eventually a cat will get off her lap and she'll get it for me.
Yeah, no worries. We're excited to see it. Before we jump into more of the Texans, I do want to get some history from the Oilers. Now, a lot of Titans fans said that the Columbia Blue don't belong to Houston. Like you said, but the city of Houston did use the color blue, the Columbia Blue, before the Oilers, correct?
I don't know. I only pay attention to the Oilers, so I don't know. There's a lot of fans here that didn't give a rat's about what colors they wore once they left town because they were so mad at Bud Adams. Now that Columbia Blue looks so much better. Every year it seems to look better and better. And before I got laid off at 6'10", they were ready to run me off because I said I like seeing the Columbia Blue. You're never going to see it here. So if you want to see it, you had to watch it in Nashville. And I did a story with Dan Pastorini, Robert Brazil, White Shoes Johnson. All those guys love seeing the Columbia Blue in Nashville because they never see it here again. So you either have a choice. You see it one place, you never see it again. And I thought it looked great. And it was the best thing that could happen. The Texans beat them when they were wearing Columbia Blue. And so that's the best of both worlds. And they tell you what, those end zones and midfield that said Oilers just almost brought tears to my eyes because of all the times I was over covering that team. And and they're going to do it again. They wore it twice last year. They haven't said how many times they're going to wear it again. They would never wear it on the road. A lot of people, I dare them to come down here and wear it here. They're not stupid. If you get beat at home wearing Columbia Blue, imagine. And the truth is, players don't care. These guys weren't even born when the Oilers were here.
Right.
All they know is they want to beat the Titans, and the division's getting better, and the Titans have improved, and the Texans have improved. And it's just like Columbia Blue won't look nearly as good to the Titans fans when they get their butt beat.
Right. And especially by Case Keenum, right? When you get your butt beat at home by Case Keenum, that's a little bit more oof to it. All right, well, let's jump into the Texans. You said, we're building the defense. And we've made some great moves getting Daniel Hunter, D'Amico Autry, so forth and so on. But what can we do on the offense, John? Do you think we're going to wait till the draft to go to the offense, or do you think Nick has something up his sleeve?
Nah, at this point, you're not going to do anything that's going to help you. You might get some reserves. Now, one thing I would like to see him do, I don't care. Jimmy Ward's always going to get hurt. Jalen Petrie did not play well in D'Amico's system, so he's going to have to play better. The coaches love him. There's no way they're doing anything to him, but he didn't make as many big plays as he did as a rookie. So maybe he's adjusted to the system better. He did start playing better at the end of the year. So Ward's going to get hurt. Then who are your backups? Same guys before. What they did with Petrie and then 3 safeties signed off the street after the season began was miraculous. And I think at some point there's still good safeties out there. I would love to see Casario get Justin Simmons, but Simmons, I guess, is waiting. Some point he's gonna be convinced. Okay, I'm gonna have to take almost a minimum contract with a bunch of incentives that I can make if I stay healthy. And I think if Nick wants to pay for a safety, a veteran, he can do it. Although it is a deep draft for safeties, but not in the first round, probably the second, third, and fourth round. And probably based on what I've been writing for HoustonTexans.com, and I sent a column in today that'll be posted in the morning about my first 3 dream picks for the Texans and who and why. And they've signed 13 free agents, made 1 trade for Mixon, and they brought back 7 players. And it is heavily, heavily tended toward defense for obvious reasons. I have never seen a team that did as well as the Texans did, 3 of their starting defensive linemen, and a defensive line that played great, helped set a team record for sacks. 3 of them are gone. Now, they really traded Grenard for Daniil Hunter, and he's a better pass rusher, and he's been healthier than Grenard's. So that's an advantage. I was stunned when they trade Malik Collins. I still don't know why they did it, and took a 7th-round pick. Now, Sheldon Rankins played one of the best seasons he's ever had. Cincinnati gave him a $4 million a year raise in 2 years. And so they offered him $2 million. I don't blame him. Casario will put a budget on a player, and he may go over it a little bit, but if somebody else is coming in going to break their bank, he'll let him go. And he has enough confidence in his personnel department and the coaches to coach them where they'll move on. And I think getting Daniil Hunter and Danico Autry, and Autry's like wine. He just gets better with age. He's averaged 9 sacks since he turned 31. And since he turned 30. And I still think they need a defensive tackle. And I think that in my column that I wrote that'll be posted tomorrow, I am taking a defensive tackle first. And I was going to have them take a corner. They've got to have another corner. You cannot count on Jeffrey Okudah and C.J. Henderson, both of whom have been bust after being 3rd and 9th pick in the first round. You can't hope one of those guys is going to start. You have to be prepared for Stingley to miss time with an injury since he has each of his first 2 years. You hope that doesn't come true, but you have to be prepared. And that's why ideally their first 2 picks would be a defensive tackle and a corner. But I found a receiver that's so good for what they want to do. I've got them taking a receiver in the 2nd, a corner in the 3rd. And my 3 are Braden Fiske, the defensive tackle from Florida State, Malachi Corley, the wide receiver, who's a clone of Deebo Samuel from Western Kentucky, and a corner, Max Melton, who won't be there when they pick 86. He's going to have to take a couple of those 4s and trade up. But, man, all 3 are seniors. They've all had so much playing experience. They all would fit perfectly with what Texans want to do. And Bobby Slowick would be turning cartwheels to get a shot at Malachi Corley because that kid can do everything Deebo Samuel did when he came out of South Carolina. The only difference, Corley is stronger. He benched 225 pounds, I think, 26 times. And, Deebo Samuel did it 15.
Man, that is a little extra, power to it, right? Crenshaw, do you got a question for for John?
No, not really. As far as cornerback, who's on the Steven Nelson. Would you re-sign Steven Nelson?
They're not re-signing Steven Nelson.
How come?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
He played well. He played better in his 2 years here than he did in the other stops of his career, but for whatever reason, they're ready to move on. Maybe he wants too much money. Maybe he'll get serious. A lot of the guys not involved in the initial wave of free agency and then that second wave, they're all out there. There's so many of them waiting for somebody to get hurt, saying, okay, give me 2 or 3 million. When in reality, they're going to have to take like 1 million on a 1 year deal and then get a lot of incentives that if they play and they start, they're going to get more money. And they don't like that because they're used to making more money. But reality hits. Sometimes it takes all the way till June. Look, I remember George Fant. George Fant wasn't even with a team when they went to training camp. And then injury to Titus, they signed him. He started. He played well enough to get a contract from another team because they weren't going to bring him back. And a lot of the guys they've lost, they didn't want to bring back. It is amazing the turnover this franchise is going to have, considering how well they did. Now, not all of these 13 free agents are going to make the team, of course, but and then the draft choices, they have 8. We know Nick will make a bunch of trades, no telling what they'll end up with. And but it's going to have a lot of turnover for a team that's done so well. But I think a lot of that's D'Amico having a year and his position coaches to study the players to see how they fit in with what they want to do. But right now, corner, they do not have a guy you say, okay, he's the starter opposite Derek Stingley Jr.
Okay. Now we got a comment. I kind of have one too. Do you think we can get Xavier Howard? Like, he already made a lot of comments about how he wants to come back to Houston. He wants to play for D'Amico. Of course, this is his hometown. He got tattoos all over. Do you think maybe after the draft we can sign him for cheap, or probably not going to happen?
Well, after they signed Okuda and C.J. Henderson, and Howard didn't play worth a damn last year, and it's so funny. I watched so many agents use so many members of the media during free agency, and used to no, you never heard a word about it. Somebody wanting to play for Houston. And now, because they played well and because D'Amico is so popular, agents leak it like crazy. Oh, my guy's going to Houston. He wants to play for Houston. And then you see players go public on social media. I want to go to Houston's because nobody else is interested. And that happens every year, but it happens to other teams. And it's a sign of the times. The Texans are a good team. Franchise scored great in that NFLPA survey. I figured out giving each grade a number. The Texans were first in the AFC South. Jacksonville was second. Indy third. And the Titans fourth.
Okay.
Texans had no grade below a B.
Hey, I'll take it. A win's a win for anything, right? Kenneth, you got a question for John for the Texans?
Yes, sir. I would like to ask this. What do you think is the most important to pick in the free agency? Do you think it's a safety or a corner? Which one you think is most important?
Kenneth, I think they're not going to get a corner. They've already got plenty of backup corners, has-beens, and never was. They need to use the draft to get a corner. One of the things that Chiefs did, they saw that Snead was contract was going to be up. So for the last 2 years, they've been drafting multiple corners, hoping one would emerge to take his place because they knew with Chris Jones up and what they were doing with some other positions, Snead was going to have to go. That's why we only got a 3 and something else for him. And he ended up getting $19 million a year from the Titans. And so I think in free agency, safeties are not valued like they used to be. And that's why so many of them are getting cut. So many of them are having trouble snapping into reality. Reality is only on a rare occasion is a safety going to get paid big bucks. And it's not going to be when he's approaching 30 years old. So I think there's a lot of safeties out there who will probably take less money to get on a team that has a chance to go to the playoffs again. And the corners are going to have to come from the draft. It's a deep and talented draft for cornerbacks. If they decided they wanted to get a corner in the second round and wait for the receiver in the third round, they've done well with receivers in the third round, Nico Collins and Tank Day. They might do that. The only reason I have them taken Braden Fiske, the defensive tackle from Florida State, with the first pick in the second round, and then Malachi Corley. It's just Corley fits so perfectly with what Bobby Slowick does. The guy who looks like a running back, runs the ball a lot. He lines up in the backfield, goes in motion, lines up in the slot, lines up wide. He is versatile, just like Deebo Samuel and Bobby Slowick and D'Amico, of course, know all about Deebo Samuel from watching him every day in practice and then during games. But there's some really good corners that are going to be available in the second round when they pick, if they decide, okay, we can still get a good receiver in the third. And that's one reason Casario traded that 23rd overall pick, is the guys that they want are, there's a lot of talent in the second, third, and fourth round.
And they get more
Another
value.
question. I have another question. Do you think they will get another running back in free agency, or do you think you see us going to the draft to get a running back?
At this point, Kenneth, the big question is, can Damian Pierce adjust to the zone scheme? He did not last year. Now, at the end of the season, after the season, I read a deep dive in the Athletic by their Titans writer, and he quoted in way down in the story. It's a long story. And Derrick Henry said, man, my biggest regret is I didn't learn the zone scheme sooner. And so I guess the first year he just couldn't figure it out. He's a straight ahead power back instead of a guy going left and planting his foot and then cutting back. And that's the way Damian Pierce is. Well, Pierce, if he could figure that out, and they're not going to know it till they get him on the field, so they could get a free agent back. But at this point, what free agent is going to want to come here and maybe be number 3? I would use a 5th, 6th, 7th round pick on a running back, take a young guy that wasn't drafted, Isaiah Pacheco last year's 7th round pick. But I would not take it back higher than the 5th round, maybe more like 6 or 7.
Yeah, I have my eyes on Will Shipley. Pause. I think he's going to be a great running back out of Clemson.
He'll be long gone, Matthew. But
I think so too. I think so too.
Right now,
4th round.
I see him taking in the. They got 5 picks in the 2nd through 4th rounds. I can see a defensive tackle, maybe 2, a cornerback, maybe 2, a wide receiver. They don't need 2 wide receivers, and after that, maybe. I don't see him taking a running back in the 4th round. So a linebacker somewhere in there, but I don't think they'll be drafting offensive linemen. They've got 3 tight ends, but really they only have 1 good one. So I could see him adding a tight end who could block, but it's going to be, those running backs are going to start going in the 3rd round down. And there's so many of them, but if you've got a college that could play that zone scheme, you got a shot. They need one like a free agent they signed 1 year who spent his rookie year on the practice squad, and they exposed him to waivers 3 times before they put him on the roster for the last 2 games of his 2nd season. Arian Foster, greatest running back in team history.
Yes, sir. As I said, just like Foster. So I got a question for you too. I doubt he's there at the 42nd pick, but if Texas A&M linebacker Adrian Cooper is there, do you think D'Amico? You don't think D'Amico takes him?
They're going to play 2 linebackers most of the time.
Okay.
And they got 2. Christian Harris, over the second half of the season, he really figured it out and played well. And then Al-Shahir, when he left the 49ers, Rand Carthon, the general manager of the Titans, he'd spent all his career with the 49ers, like D'Amico, and he gave him a chance to start full-time, paid him a lot of money. So he could have come here then, but he wanted to go there because of Rand Carthon and their history. And he did for 1 year. He was their leading tackler. He played really well, and they wanted to sign him to a long-term extension. Nope, now I want to go play for D'Amico. It's like he was in the minors, and now he's in the majors. And so when you have him and Harris, you're not going to draft a linebacker who's not going to be on the field. And those 2 guys are going to be on the field. And they liked Al-Shahir so much, they gave him a 3-year deal. And you guys know, boy, Casario has not been generous with anybody on a free agent on a contract of more than 2 years, but he gave him one. So that'd be a luxury, but they're just not going to do it. If something happened and he slipped, say the 4th round, maybe, but that's why I think they need linemen and they need corners. And I'm guessing one of those 4th round picks is going to be a safety. So I'm going to say a defensive tackle, a receiver, a corner in the 2nd, 3rd, and then in the 4th, I think they're going to get a safety, and then I don't know what the other one will be. Maybe another lineman, because the way D'Amico talks all the time about linemen, defensive linemen, he may want two. And Andre Sweat, that kid is 366 pounds. They're always going to be worried about his weight. And you don't see anybody weighing that much in the NFL. And if they are, they're going to run out of gas. And you don't take a guy high who only plays the run. If he had, say, lost when he got to the combine, weighed about 340, teams would have been so excited that he showed what it took to lose that weight. So he'll go in the second round, and a team that's playing on a nose, that's who will take him. I'd love to see the Texans kept their 23rd pick and getting Byron Murphy from UT, the other defensive tackle, but I don't think he would have been there at 23 anyway.
Yeah, I wanted either him or Newton from Illinois. I don't think neither of them.
And he's coming off an injury, and you never know when you got a big guy coming off an injury to a wheel, especially when he's going into his rookie year. And Casario's taken some chances on guys who were hurt this year before and have come back full speed in their workouts and everything. But Newton is he'll go in the first round, I think, but there are questions about it.
Okay. Crenshaw, you got anything to ask?
No, not at the moment.
Okay, what about you, Kenneth? You got anything?
What do you think about Mr. John McClain? What do you think about adding J.K. Dobbins if that opportunity was to present itself?
Kenneth, if the opportunity presented itself and they could get him for like $1 million and a bunch of incentives, I'd be all over it.
Yeah.
Now, I don't, he's coming off the torn Achilles. By the time camp starts, he will have had plenty of time to recover from it. Torn Achilles are not as bad as they used to be. Like torn ACLs used to, oh my God, it could be career threatening. Now they've come back better than ever, usually the second year. But I don't think Dobbins is interested in competing for a backup job. I think he wants to be in a situation where he's clearly number two with a chance to be number one. And you never know. Maybe Dameon Pierce comes out of nowhere like he did as a rookie and he figures it out. And all of a sudden they've got the two guys, Mixon, Pierce, and a guy they've drafted in the 6th round who they think can adjust to the zone scheme, or he used the zone scheme in college.
Yeah, and by that time Mixon's gone, we got our replacement in that rookie. Maybe that'd be a nice little setup, but that's wishful thinking. I got something before we let you go, John. Now the reports today from Indianapolis, Stephen Holder said that Danielle Hunter was offered more from the Colts to play in Indianapolis, but he decided to come to Houston. You think that's correct, or you think that's just a lot of smoke?
Well, Stephen Holder, I respect him a lot. He's been covering that team a long time. He didn't say how much. It's easy for somebody there to tell him, well, we offered him more than that. If I would have kept quiet, if I'm a Colts, I don't want a competitor to know the guy would rather play for you for less money than here. Now, he's not going to the poorhouse, but the fact that he's from Katy, and I'll tell you something else, and he talked about this when we interviewed him. He was in town. He went to the playoff game. And the Browns playoff game is the first time all season I've seen almost every seat full of Texans fans. I thought Browns fans, who are great at traveling, we got a lot of Browns fans here in the Houston area, that the Texans fans would sell those tickets, and they didn't. And it was the loudest the stadium has been since the Buffalo playoff game. And so that voted very well. And he was there, and he experienced it. His family was there. They wanted him to come home, and he had to settle for only $48 million over 2 years.
Oh man, only $48 million. I was
guaranteed.
I was making that. Oh well, John. Again, thank you for coming on.
It's my pleasure, guys.
Why don't you tell everybody where we can find you on social media and what you got cooking, so that way we can support you.
Well, thank you. I got laid off at 610 because the parent company, Odyssey in Philly, was in bankruptcy, and they're trying to get all numbers down so they could get investors. And I guess I was about to break Odyssey. And so right now I'm writing 2 or 3 times a week for HoustonTexans.com features. I'm writing one that'll be posted tomorrow. As I mentioned earlier, on my 3 dream picks for the first 3 picks, I'm going to write one. My next one is going to be the best pick in Texans history in every round. And the first round is going to be tough because there's only 2. And I've already decided how I'm going to work it. And so I do appearances on KRIV with Nate Griffin every Monday and Friday morning at 8:22, channel 26. I do a weekly video on Mondays with Mattress Mac. We go out to Gallery Furniture and we talk about what's going on in Houston sports, and I tweet it. And then I'm on Texans Radio with Mark Vandermeer, John Harris every Thursday from 6 to 6:30 p.m. And then I do weekly shows in Austin, San Antonio, Waco, Las Vegas, Knoxville, and 2 in Nashville.
They just keep you busy, huh?
Yeah, and I'm doing them all because I love talking about sports,
Yes,
and
sir.
it's always such a blast to do it. And I appreciate you guys coming on and letting me talk about the Texans and what's going on here in Houston. And anytime you guys need me, just let me know.
Well, thank you again, sir.
My pleasure.
Kenneth, tell her where we can find you at.
You can find me at Twitter, Messenger _Keno, and on Instagram and YouTube, Kenneth the Messenger. And that's pretty much it, man. I appreciate y'all. And John, man, glad to meet you. And,
Thank you, Kenneth.
Very exciting conversation, man.
Thank you.
And wish you the best going forward.
You too.
Thank you.
And Mr. Crenshaw.
You can find me at Fifth Ward Crenshaw everywhere, and let's keep it going, fellas.
And you
All right,
can find
guys. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Have a good day. And you can find me at A1 Day 1 Texans everywhere. And then you also find the show Texans Fan Battle everywhere. Make sure you like, subscribe. It's free to do. Until next week, guys, have a great week. We'll see you then. Go Texans.
Yo, check it out, free rapping for the Texas.